I remember a meeting at the West End Community Centre. It was being put on by AIDS Vancouver, and everybody was curious about this thing. At the end of the meeting, I was approached by one of the board members. His name was Tavi Nirmala. And Tavi came up to me, and it was interesting because he used these exact words. He said, "What are you going to do for AIDS Vancouver?" Approximately 5 minutes later, I bumped into Gordon Price, who was a friend of mine, and we've been friends for a couple of years. And Gordon used the same words. He said, "What are you going to do for AIDS Vancouver?" And I said, "I guess I'm going to a board meeting." I walked into a room in the basement of St. Paul's Hospital about, I guess, a week or week and a half later, and I met some of the most brilliant people I have ever met in my life, totally dedicated. I started on the board in 1983. When I came on the board, the issue was information and education. How do we tell the public of Vancouver, and in particular the gay community, because that was really our first line market, how do we tell them what this issue, what this disease is all about? Another issue was support. People were sick. What do we tell them? We had no medicine. This was absolutely essential. People don't understand anymore that we had no medicine. People were dying. And there was nothing we could do. How would we be able to write support programs that would have some validity to these people? The board was trying to understand how it could advance its ideas to provide education and support services. And it came down to one thing, of course, and that was we didn't have any money and we needed to raise some. And we thought, all right, let's approach the city of Vancouver. Let's approach Pat Carney, who was the Conservative MP for Vancouver Centre. I said, "I'm here because I want to give you a heads up on an application that's coming in for funding from an organization called AIDS Vancouver." He said, "Oh yeah, well what is it, $8,000? $12,000? $15,000? We can probably cover that." I said, "Well, I'm here so early, so prematurely, that I don't know how much the grant is going to be. It could be for $10,000, it could be for $60,000 or $80,000. But I'm not just asking you to support it, I'm asking you to champion it." And he just looked at me, and he had a small pad of paper with a pencil, and he made some notes. And I said, "Now, you know, I'm going to leave, and I'm just going to let you think about it, but I hope you will be the champion that I just asked you to be." And I left. It came to council. It took about 2 months more, and it came to council. I remember Gordon Campbell standing up and saying, "Look, we all understand the protocol. However, when I look around this room at the 11 of us who are seated here, I could bet there isn't one of us in this room who's going to vote against this application for funding. So why delay them?" They were happy. They didn't want to delay us. We were surprised. That first money was used to rent office space on Davie Street, to hire Michael Welsh and Elaine Smith as the two people to write Canada's first support programs for AIDS, and to hire an executive coordinator, Bob Tibby. The Minister of Health in the Van der Zalm government was Peter Dewick. And so we set up a meeting with him, and it was my job as chair of the society to go with Bob Tibby, who was my executive coordinator, and with Hilary Wass, who represented the AIDS care team at St. Paul's Hospital. So we went to introduce the mandate, which was a 5-point mandate. Everything went fine, and it was quite quiet, and he listened to us. And then at the end, when it came time for his comments, he started to rise from his chair. He reached into his left breast pocket like this and pulled out a pamphlet called "Didn't You Know?", which was Canada's first safe sex book, which we had written. And he waved it in the air and looked at me, and he said, "Any organization that uses language like this that's in your pamphlet will never receive a nickel from my government. And I was about to lean forward and explain to him, we are trying to deal in plain English with a market that needs to save its, but I didn't get a chance to say anything. Hillary instead grabbed me by my sleeve like this, yanked my sleeve like this and said, "Shut up, he's an effing idiot." We walked to the elevator and just shaking our heads like, how could this have happened? This is ridiculous. I mean, this is the health ministry. Well, I met Bob Tivy when I first came to the board. He was the media front person and he did an excellent job. We had a very strict mandate at AIDS Vancouver. The mandate was focused on health and it was focused on education. The only thing that we ever did that was even remotely connected with politics was we were authorized to raise funds from all three levels of government. Sadly, and I say this sadly for a number of reasons, including personal, and my personal reason is that Bob and I were friends. And I don't know why he said it, but he did. I had to do what I had to do, and it was the lowest point in my public life. It was the saddest point in my public life. I had to fire him. I can't give a personal opinion because I don't believe that anybody would believe that I could divorce my personal opinion from my position as chair of the board. I'd have difficulty doing it too, because I can argue with myself, and I have now for 25 years.
Bob was a real force. When he became the executive director for AIDS Vancouver, he was an outspoken representative or spokesperson for the community, for people with AIDS, for AIDS Vancouver. Very brave, actually, in an era when most of the community was still very in the closet. He was the right person, I think, at the right time. I think Bob did the best possibly he could do under the circumstances, and I think that AIDS Vancouver was better for it. The community was better for it as well.
Years later, in the 90s, I was in Toronto. Bob had moved to Toronto, and we ran into each other sort of face on, and I walked up and I said, you know, we can't undo what's happened, but I would like it I would like at least to know that we can shake hands and go on from here. So we did. The stories told by living people aren't going to be lost. And that takes a lot of burden off of a lot of shoulders of the people who lived it and are afraid that the stories are going to get lost, forgotten. Now they won't be.